Good afternoon. Beautiful Sunday, a little cloudy. Today I'm going to finish up my little three-part discussion on Clapton's best guitar, and I'm going to talk some today about his songwriting and Clapton as a song stylist, not just as a guitarist or a blues musician, but as a song stylist. I hope you'll consider watching. But I've been doing this kind of series, if you want to call it that, on my thoughts on Clapton's best guitar. And I said I'm not going to rank his best guitar solos. I might actually do that someday. I think I mentioned Badge and Have You Ever Loved a Woman on Derek and the Dominoes' first 12 bars as two of what I would consider his best specimens of guitar among the many. Solo and Why Does Love Gotta Be So Sad is pretty good. Sometimes it's hard to tell whether you're listening to Dwayne Allman or Eric Clapton on that album. So, because they're both so good, but great solos. But I'm going to talk sort of about the elements that make Clapton's guitar great and some of the different periods that reflect it. Now, on the first part, I talked a little bit about Clapton as a student of the blues, and I think the album that epitomized that was the Blues Breakers. And then I think throughout his career, he's demonstrated that kind of student of the blues. You know, his head is so full of all these old blues songs from when he grew up, and that's a good background. That's like in history, if you read a bunch of books as a kid, that never leaves you, or literature, you know. Whatever, that's something you have your whole life. And his background, comparable, was all the music he had listened to growing up, and that's as a student of music, and particularly a student of the blues, and how important that is. And then the second and we said the Blues Breakers album, I think, of his early work really epitomizes that. A student of the blues, really valedictorian of the class, 4.0 plus, but nonetheless a student of the blues, you know, a student, but a student nonetheless. And then we talked a little bit about the freeform elements of Clapton, which I think were so important for all the excesses and the self-indulgence of a band like Cream. They do kind of represent the sort of breaking out of a lot of the discipline of playing so much within forms of blues, and just being more freewheeling. That works if you have great players sometimes. Not, I think it would get old for anybody all the time, but such an important element. And that's where a lot of great ideas come out of, if you think about it. I think a lot of great songs are written that way, because you're on a journey, you're not sure where you're going, and you come across things. And so that that free-form period, which is sort of represented by Cream, was very influential in Clapton. I think it made him a better guitar player, and laid the path for the idea of the extended solo, which is such an important thing. I think jazz, I'm not saying he invented long solos, but that kind of where you're out there, you're not sure what you're going to play, and maybe the people in a band like Cream, the other people weren't either. In some bands, okay, you're going to take a solo, but the rhythm's expected to kind of keep some pattern going or something. In Cream, it was just everybody off to the races. So true free form, it was like kind of throwing paint at the wall, and seeing what kind of picture you made. Someday you might get lucky, but you might not. But it was important in a way. And definitely a critical part of Clapton's development as an artist. But I wanted to talk today about the song, and because I think you noticed that I've done a couple things on the importance of songs. One of them actually was when my mom died, unfortunately, just 2 months ago. She died, and I did a tribute to my mother and said her musical legacy, and one of them was how my mom knew so many songs, and I'd grown up around a lot of songs, not just scales and patterns. You need scales and patterns, and I know music theory quite well, if I do say so myself, but songs, because if all you got is theory, then you're Carl Czerny or whatever. If you don't have songs that speak to people and you, then you don't have the you don't have the expressive element that songs give, and even an instrumental can be a song, but and the other video I did that's kind of like that is the Eagles versus Poco. I hope you'll watch that one. And I said that is great. There were so many bands back in that period when the Eagles came out in Southern California. They all played great. They all looked great. They were all kind of hippies still, kind of the post-hippie early 70s. But the bands that stuck around had good songs. And I think in terms of Clapton's career, one of the keys to his staying power has been his ability to write some good songs. I think he would say he's a guitar player first and foremost, but he's written some good songs, but he's also selected good songs to do. So he developed emphasis on the song. Now, he was a student of the blues, so you could say blues, like those are songs on John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. But a broader sampling of songs, where the emphasis on the songs. It doesn't have to be a blues song, just songs that connect with you and hopefully your audience. And I think by when Clapton got out of Cream, and went into Blind Faith, and then Delaney and Bonnie. That was kind of what he was looking for, was more of a song-based approach. And I think that's why I actually prefer Blind Faith, because I think with Stevie Winwood, however premature, and you could say they never really lived up to their potential, but they did have some, I think, more of a songwriting sensibility in Blind Faith. And then Delaney and the Bonnie Bramlett was really like that. They were song stylists. And his first solo album with Let It Rain and Blues Power was kind of like that. And the Derek and the Dominoes, a lot of good original songs. Now I always think those albums, they were still of their time, and they still were still kind of mired in all that freeform kind of psychedelia. And so the discipline of songs was kind of fighting a little bit with the freeform nature of the time and the musicianship that was popular. And of course, when you went to a concert, people wanted that. At that time, they did. Those audiences anyway, they wanted the big long wild solos and everybody off. But Clapton wanted to write songs. He was friends with George Harrison. I think the album, the music in the Big Pink, was by the band, was very influential. Which kind of went that had a Dylan association as well. A lot of so many examples, but you got to have good songs, and I think maybe Clapton didn't think Cream had that great of songs, and that maybe who am I to criticize Cream, but that would be a criticism I would have of Cream. They had like some of the greatest all-time guitar solos, but it was just three guys. They didn't have the kind of singing, was often kind of an afterthought, and so was songwriting. Frankly, I think they, when you compare their songs to like a Leon Russell, or for that matter, Burt Bacharach, or any great songwriters, James Taylor, Jim Croce, those guys are great songwriters. And Pete Townsend. Jimmy Page is a good songwriter. He doesn't do conventional songs per se necessarily, but he's very creative, and he does write great songs. And I think that's what Clapton needed. He really, for him to have had the solo career that he had starting in the 70s that went all the way till today, he needed good songs, and I think that was the missing ingredient. So he came out of the blues, and rock. But I wouldn't say Clapton is rock and roll. He played rock and roll, obviously, but more blues. There's a difference between rock and roll and blues. Clapton's a blues guitar player. And then the free form. But the kind of missing ingredient, I think, that really was the secret sauce of his longevity was good songs, And I think Clapton himself wrote some good songs. I love Bell Bottom Blues, which was written with Bobby Whitlock, and a lot of those songs are good. I think he, but I also think he's always been a guitar player first and foremost. I think, and probably that's true about his singing too. He sings. I feel like I sing a lot of times, but I kind of sing because there's a microphone in front of my face and no one else knows the words. So I think Clapton's a guitar player first, a singer, a good singer, but kind of that's after being a guitar player, and songwriter is also kind of after being a guitar player. But he's learned to write good songs and also select good songs. But there's some really good songs. But you start to even on like the first solo album, of course, Delaney and Bonnie, Derek and the Dominoes. You see that trying to find a song sensibility. I think to varying degrees. I think Derek and the Dominoes might have achieved that better without Duane Allman. But then I guess you'd have to sacrifice the Duane Allman Eric Clapton collaboration, which is historic in terms of guitar playing. But I do think there was a tension there with the songwriting sensibility that Clapton was looking for, and Bobby Whitlock's a good songwriter, and so I think there was a tension there. But when he started like with 461 Ocean Boulevard, he started really focusing more on the song, And there's something interesting about songs. Now, I write songs. I hope you'll watch some of my original Song Thursday series. I write songs. I've got a bunch of them still in the pike. Some of them are simple, just me and guitar. I don't put them up there if the sound quality's too bad usually. But some of them are just me and guitar, and then some of them I have drums and everything on them. I've actually I got 10 new songs with drums. It's kind of a big deal, and I'll be saying more about that. But one thing I've noticed when I write songs, a lot of times when I really write a song, hey, I'm proud of this song. I spent a lot of time on the words, the concept of the song, the bridge, the chorus. Then when you get done, sometimes there's not a lot of room for big guitar playing. I'm always thinking I want to do this guitar extravaganza. When you really write a song you're proud of, a lot of times guitar gets in the way because the song is about the words and the melody and the connection. So the art is trying to harmonize literally and figuratively, all the guitar and the instrumentation that makes a jam with great songs. And I think there's a tension. A lot of time, if you think about it, a lot of the groups that really emphasize songwriting, they don't have like 20-minute solos. I think the Allman Brothers are an example of a band that have good songs and pretty freewheeling solos. I'm not saying that other groups don't too, but if you think about it, there's tension. But I think Clapton started to find that balance on 461 Ocean Boulevard, and he didn't. When I read in his autobiography, when he did 461 Ocean Boulevard, of course he was coming out of that hiatus period with Alice Ormsby Gore. I hope you watch my little tribute to the sad death of Alice Ormsby Gore. Sounds like a fascinating person, and I wish there was some interviews or something. But anyway, Clapton kind of came out of that period where everyone talks about, where he barely left the house for 3 years, and he did 461 Ocean Boulevard. And according to his book and others, he didn't have that many songs. I think George Terry, his guitar player, was helping him write a few. He did Motherless Children, which is an old traditional. George Terry wrote Mainline Florida. I forget who wrote Give Me Strength. That's such a beautiful song. Willie and the Hand Jives on there. That's an old song. But he was picking songs, so he's still not writing a lot. He's always had a few of his songs on albums and on other people's music. But they're good songs, and the guitar playing is in the service of a song. So I love that. I think that in a way is more professional, and it's less self-indulgent. And you say, here I'm doing this song. Does it really need, 15-minute long solo where everyone forgets what the actual song was? And the answer to that question is probably no. But that's also why some of his old Cream fans that were still in the haze of the late '60s. Sometimes chafed at those albums. But I think it was a good move for Clapton, and I love those albums. But I do think the guitar playing on it, in a way, is better because it's more professional and it's more well considered in terms of what do I really need to be playing here. And that's hard. A lot of things that are hard to do aren't necessarily obvious. Playing a 30-minute long version of Willie Dixon's Spoonful looks hard, because you're moving your fingers so fast for so long. But in a lot of ways, what's harder is coming up with appropriate parts to complement the song. And I think anyone who's ever written songs or tried to arrange them, I have that trouble all the time. I have songs I'm really proud of, and sometimes they're better with just me and acoustic, because you start adding other things and it's hard. It's just hard. So when you start to have albums like 461, Ocean Boulevard, No Reason to Cry, which I think is an underrated album, but he's got some really good of his own songs. That album is overlooked, but there's some really good High, what's the one, Pretty Blue Eyes, there's some really nice songs on that. But and then he's always going to toss a couple blues in there, because that's where he gets to play some great solos a lot of times. But No Reason to Cry, The one I was thinking of is there's one in every crowd. That's the one I met. Not No Reason to Cry is a great album. That's got some great songs on it. Slow Hand, Backless. Those are all great song albums. And I think at their best, they have some of his best guitar playing. Now, because I think that there's good guitar playing laced all the way through that, but a lot of times it's woven into songs. So maybe some people don't notice it. And I like the big long solos sometimes, but that if you really want good guitar playing that's I think more adult and more professional, those are some of his best albums. I think Derek and the Dominoes is a better album. I mean, that's a great album, but the 70s albums are kind of settled down. They don't smack you in the face all the time with how great they are, but they're pretty well, kind of soft, subtle albums in a way. Well, good guitar playing all the way through them. And that Tulsa band he had was a good band. So I think that's a really important point. A couple things I'll say about Clapton. Now and the song. I'm old enough to remember something that a lot of you, if you're younger than I am, might not remember. And I remember before Clapton, I remember when Clapton was just one of the figures on FM rock, and this was before they called it classic rock. As soon as they started calling it classic rock, everything changed. It was FM rock, album-oriented rock. The day they started calling it classic rock, it was kind of dead. I mean, I like use the term classic rock because I like it's what everyone else uses. But Clapton, I remember before classic rock, like in the 70s, at that time you had like I remember in high school you had like Jay Ferguson, Out on Thunder Island, great song, but Thin Lizzy, Aerosmith, a lot of bands like that. There were a lot of kids that didn't like Clapton, actually. I remember a lot of kids that were, they wanted something that seemed a little more upbeat, a little more commercial. I think Clapton, even those albums where he had some of his biggest hits, weren't entirely commercial. Like on Slow Hand, you had like Mean Old Frisco. They were always pretty artistic and true albums in terms of a vision.
Well, God is one in the nations, wanting them in every way to turn away from the evil, to seek the Lord and pray. And we've been told that God don't want us, Jesus coming soon. We've been told that God don't want us, Jesus coming soon.
But I remember, one of the terms I remember was country Clapton. So Clapton was sort of influenced by country. So he did Tulsa Time. He did that song by Tulsa Time that people called a Don Williams song. I think it was really written by a guy named Danny Flowers, who was Don Williams' guitar player. And he does another song on Slow Hand, which is really a beautiful country song by Don Williams, which is We're All the Way. Really great song. Don Williams was terrific, by the way. Great country artist, Don Williams, one of the very best. Oh my gosh, beautiful, smooth voice and great songs, Don Williams. But you start to see that other elements come in. He does reggae. I Shot the Sheriff. Now, you can say it's not really good reggae or whatever. Hey, made him a lot of money. That's not my favorite Clapton song, to be honest with you. I think he plays it better in concert now because he gets out there and takes off on a big solo. But anyway, it's considered a reggae song. on 461 Ocean Boulevard, he does "Give Me Strength," which is a beautiful little song. But it's kind of I was trying to think. I think it might be the first kind of mellow ballad with the kind of country flavor. Not country like Hank Williams, but there's a kind of country element to it that I could think of. It's called "Give Me Strength." It's on 461 Ocean Boulevard.
Dear Lord, give me strength to carry on. Dear Lord, give me strength to carry on. My home may be out on the highway, but I've done so much wrong. But please, give me strength to carry on.
But those are good songs, you know, good songs. And he's always doing the blues. You know, he's got blues songs on every album I can think of. On 461 Ocean Boulevard, he does "I Can't Hold Out," which is, I think, is an Elmore James song. "The Sky Is Crying," that's Elmore James too. I think that's that might be on "There's One in Every Crowd." "Better Make It Through Today." Those are blues songs with great guitar. But you start to see songs. And "Mainline Florida" is a song. You know, that's a rock song. It's, you know, it's kind of a hard rock song, but it's a song, you know. It's a tight little, well-constructed song with a good riff in it. And that's so important. So those song elements are critical, and I think it's in the 70s that he kind of hit his stride. Now, some of those earlier groups, maybe it was a timing issue, but I don't know if they were better or worse, but I do think in the 70s, kind of Clapton, maybe he was just getting a little older and had more money, time to gel a little bit and synthesize some of his background. But those albums are kind of more settled down, and you start to see, you know, the blues, rock, good solos, but also better attention to songs. Even if Clapton didn't write all the songs, you know. Look at Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart has written some of my favorite songs. He's a very sensitive, good songwriter. I mean, Rod Stewart's a great artist. But, you know, he's never done all his own songs, you know. Like Willie Nelson, you know, he does other people's songs too, because it's... but Clapton does a lot of other people's songs, but he's got some of his own songs. Yeah, I could take or leave "Wonderful Tonight." I think that would be an example of a song I remember in high school a lot of people didn't like, whereas today, you know, it's kind of a wedding band type song almost. But I remember when that came out, so some people liked it. I think if you were romantically inclined, I seem to remember a lot of girls liked it. I don't know. And a lot of people that wanted to hear Deep Purple didn't. But you know what? It is a song, you know. Promises, he didn't write Promises, but that's on Backless. It's a beautiful song. But see, a lot of those, like Wonderful Tonight, Promises, you don't, those are songs, and you don't hear as much guitar. But if you think about it, Promises has got that nice little, but it's got really nice guitar. You try to play Promises or Lay Down Sally, those are good little, in a way, there's a subtlety to those rhythm parts, you know. So, and I think in the 80s, now in the 80s, Clapton changed his style quite a bit. And, you know, he kind of put on, in the 70s, he was kind of scruffy, looked like he, you know, smoked on stage, probably had a case of beer behind every amp duck done, or, you know, car rattle. Those, and I love those albums, by the way. They're great, kind of like the Stones are. You know, they're not too uptight about things, but they're great players and they're great albums. But in the 80s, you know, he started wearing those $1,000 Italian suits, and he got bass players that had more contemporary styles. You know, a lot of his old bass players kind of did those old shuffles and walks and rock and roll riff type bass players, and he started getting bass players that could pop strings and things. And he's, a lot of his old albums had piano and organ. And in the 80s, he started using synthesizers and keyboards as part of his band. That changes your sound. I remember I kind of preferred the 70s Clapton, but you know what? That kept him viable. And also, there's some pretty damn good like Journeyman. I think there's some of that. There's some great guitar playing and good songwriting on those albums. So he was staying. He wasn't. I don't think he was selling out or just making some sort of calculated move. But he did update his sound, and that was probably a good thing. I think later Clapton, if you're younger, the Clapton you grew up with is almost like an adult contemporary artist, you know, that plays guitar, like a Celine Dion or something, you know, or Laura Pausini, who I love. But you know, because they do rock, you know, they have rock, but old Clapton was kind of a countercultural, rebellious figure, and that's who I've always liked. But I think when he kind of combined that discipline of his youth with the freedom of that late 60s period, and then added in songs, those were the critical factors. So that was a great development in Clapton's career. Well, I hope you watched this long ass video. I just looked, it's 26 minutes. God. But a great artist. I hope you'll consider subscribing, and I'm going to put some clips in here. I might break this up, try to edit it. I've learned a little bit about video editing, not much, but I've gotten a little better at it, and I can sort of move things around and cut things now a little better. So hopefully, I still can't do like some of these guys, Paul Davids. Oh my God, his videos are like works of art. Just, I mean, the video production. Yeah, content's excellent too, but I mean, just the video production is like that. Rhett Shull, same thing. It was like, if you didn't play guitar at all, it'd just be like a great video. Just so, but I'm trying. God bless you. Rock on. Don't ever forget this one point, everybody. Music can't live in a police state. Not rock and roll music. Not music of freedom. Thank you. God bless you.